can't live in them, but you certainly can't live without them. That's a fact I learned by playing my very first Crash Bandicoot game. I know. Deceiver, how did you go this long without touching that franchise? Well, it gets better. I played my very first 2 Crash Bandicoot games. And, wait for this, they're both on the Game Boy Advanced. Boy, that's not gonna warp my perception of the franchise in any.
Nope. Let's talk about bandicoots. Just what exactly are the things, am I right? Running around all over Australia, just shoving their marsupialness in everyone's faces? Funnily enough, there are over 20... Fine. You're here for games, so we'll talk about games. I admit it, there are certain game franchises that I've never really had the chance to experience, Crash being one of them. Growing up, I stuck mainly to the Nintendo consoles. My older brother did eventually give me his original PlayStation along with a few games, but at that point, I had discovered the joy that was Pokemon as well as enjoying the sunny beaches of Isle Delfino and Super Mario Sunshine. Crash at this time was cross-platform, but I never really had been exposed to the series. However, Christmas morning 2004, alongside a brand new original Xbox, I had my first brush with the orange crate-crushing marsupial.
Crash Nitro Kart technically was my first Crash game, but I don't know. I just found that game, and Crash himself, just kinda weird.
With Crash 4 just announced for the PS4 and Xbox One, I figured it was high time that I made a revisit to Crash and gave the fellow a second chance. Little kid Deceiver probably just thought video games required some sort of plumber or way to force things into tiny balls. He completely misjudged the Crash franchise. Oh. When originally planning this particular video, I wanted to check out the PS1 Crash titles, so I picked up the N-Sane trilogy for the Switch. I messed around on the first couple levels of each game, got a general feel for the wackiness that seems to be at the heart of the franchise, and genuinely enjoyed the unique platforming available in the games. So, I set out to boot up the old PS1, but that's when it happened. Talking in our Discord, link in the description, one of our viewers showed off a Crash title for the GBA.
I was just playing some Crash games on a handheld Nintendo console, and I enjoyed those. Hey, why not check out to see how far the series has come? I'm sure that'll be fun.
Good golly, I need to stop listening to you.
Crash Bandicoot: The Huge Adventure released in February 2002, marking the beginning for a few firsts for the Crash franchise. This was the title that broke the console exclusivity and cemented the iconic Bandicoot as a Universal mascot, not just a Sony one. Universal Studios was approached by Vicarious Visions, developers interested in partnering to make some titles for the GBA. Vicarious Visions also aided in the remasters of the original trilogy. Liking their concept submission and the prototype of a handheld Crash game similar to the PlayStation titles, Universal gave Vicarious the green light to move forward with the first handheld Crash game. Alright, second, but I want to stay far away from anything to do with Tiger Electronics.
You know, Vicarious Visions are actually the developers behind Crash Nitro Kart as well, so it seems like we've come full circle.
Alongside Leggy, I prepared myself for my first full, proper Crash Bandicoot experience. Suffice to say, this is certainly a handheld title in the Crash Bandicoot series of video games. I mean, at least with my little experience, they seem to have generally all the hallmarks of the series just crammed onto the GBA. Dr. Neocortex is here, and the evil twin of Aku Aku, Uka Uka, wants him to ignore Crash and shrink the Earth down into a tiny ball. Not sure why, but it's evil. That means Crash needs to collect some oblong crystals to save the day and return Earth to the proper size. You start out by diving straight into the first warp room. Boom, straight to it, no bullcrap. This is actually a trend throughout the game. It is quite streamlined and lacks any fluff, like cutscenes longer than a couple screens of text. You get presented with 5 levels you are free to choose from. Pick one and start cracking crates while picking up those sweet, sweet Wumpa fruits. Crash can jump, spin, slide, crawl, and body slam himself through the levels. One hit and you lose a life, just like the other games. Extra life boxes can be found in each level, often being in multiple places since you'll die quite a bit. Aku Aku boxes will summon the friendly mask and give you a max of 2 hit points, which aids in prolonging the Bandicoot's demise. Bosses are fought once all 5 hidden crystals are found. After that, it's on to the next world. After each boss fight, you're given an upgrade to an ability which will be used significantly in the following levels. You'll receive a stronger body slam, a double jump, a rapid tornado spin, and a faster running ability. There are 20 mandatory crystals overall, as well as gems rewarded for smashing all boxes or completing secret areas in the game. Collecting all of these will unlock the true final boss, but no spoilers. Time trial mode is also available, which allows players to collect relics by completing previous levels in a certain amount of time. Sapphire, Gold, and Platinum are awarded for 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, respectively. Challenging platforming and frustrating bonus areas are also a guarantee. This is a Crash title on the Game Boy Advance. Honestly, this game ended up being exactly what it advertised, which works to its advantage. Fans of the series received a faithful handheld recreation of Naughty Dog's games, and newcomers, like myself, are treated with the gameplay that makes the series so enjoyable. Granted, the majority is played in strictly 2D unlike the original titles, but some 2.5D sections do appear. Boss fights are pretty easy and don't exhibit a whole lot of depth. Watch the patterns, get your 3 hits, get your upgrade, we're done. Moving on. Reused assets are also an annoyance. Some are even pulled straight from the PlayStation games, which is fine. However, some variety would have been nice. There are only 5 unique environments for each level: jungle, snow, underwater, sewer, and space. Flying, Space Harrier-esque type missions, appear alongside the regular ones. The game music was fine, but when I hear the same jungle song every time I play the jungle-themed stage, it further proves that lack of diversity is this game's major flaw. Sound effects also appear to do their best to stay in line with the ones used in the previous games. I have to say, I do love the sound of picking up a Wumpa fruit. Reused assets aside, the sprite work for the game is notable. They may have reused some enemies from the main series, but good gracious, those pixels are pretty. I'd imagine it isn't easy taking 3D polygonal models and transitioning them into conventional sprites. But I could be wrong. Backgrounds for the levels are also done well, being highly detailed and aid in capturing the essence of the original games.
Ultimately, when I went to peel back and dissect this title, I found exactly what I expected to: a faithful recreation of the Crash games, but just as a handheld. You can tell Vicarious Visions was playing it safe when they developed this title, and it worked out for them. The game sold 750,000 copies and received generally positive reviews. Lack of innovation was the problem here. Hopefully, with their second GBA title, that problem will be no more.
Released a year after Huge Adventure, N-Tranced is already showcasing some significant improvements. We actually get a pretty lengthy introductory segment interwoven with a tutorial stage. This would have come in quite handy with Huge Adventure, but better late than never, I suppose. You start the game off with a double jump, as well as your stronger body slam. Plot-wise, Neocortex is actually absent, marking the first time he wasn't the primary antagonist. Instead, Uka Uka has enlisted the help of Entropy, whose plan is to hypnotize the Bandicoots and force them to join their nefarious cause. He sets out to accomplish this by utilizing the other main villain, N-Tranced, who just so happens to be an egg in a robot suit that has mastered hypnotism. The two teleport Coco, Crunch, and Crash to their hideout, but Aku Aku is able to save Crash. The resulting malfunction sends fake Crash to Entropy's lair, which leads the villains to assume they captured the real one. From that point, the main goal is to traverse the 21 levels and collect all the crystals along the way. An interesting change is the use of an overworld opposed to a warp room. You no longer can pick from whatever level you like, instead having to choose between 2 options. Gems for crates are still available, but hidden in certain themed levels are shards of the blue, red, and green gems. Collecting all shards will unlock the last 3 levels and allow you to fight the true final boss. Again, no spoilers, but in this one, it's pretty obvious who you'll fight. Now, the levels themselves feel much more fleshed out than they did in the previous title. There's definitely more depth, varying enemy types, branching paths, and a range of platforming elements that will put your skills to the test. Certain segments are included where Crash will ride on a magic carpet or even a backpack helicopter. These parts also help in keeping the levels fresh. We even have a brand new crate that will freeze enemies. I mentioned themed levels. Remember how Huge Adventure only had 5 different types of levels? Well, buckle up, buckaroos, because N-Tranced has 6! Which this once again shows that the level design is far more engaging, since I legitimately thought there were more before I double checked. Volcano, Egyptian Tomb, and Arabian Nights are the 3 main themes of the platforming levels. Mayan ruins, wakeboarding water levels, and outer space levels are sprinkled into each world to offer even more variety. The variety doesn't stop there. Oh no, you actually get to play as different characters. Once you rescue Crunch and Coco, the first 2 bosses of the game, they'll join in on your mission. Crunch is featured in 2 of the Mayan ruin levels. In these levels, you have to navigate a lengthy obstacle course while using the Atmosphere, a gyroscopic ball that apparently requires one to T-pose in order to operate the machine. Coco appears in the outer space levels, which are similar to the flying levels in Huge Adventure. However, the sun is trying to kill Coco, so you better keep hitting those boosts, or you'll be cooked. Fake Crash is one of your boss fights, but it isn't clear if he joins your party. Well, let's talk about his fight. It's extremely interesting. Fake Crash will mirror every move the player makes with real Crash. The goal is to deplete Fake Crash's health bar before you off yourself by accident. I haven't played many boss fights in the series, but Leggy has, and he felt as though this is one of the more interesting ones overall. Upgrades return as well. Super Run and the Rapid Spin come back along with the brand new Super Slide and Rocket Jump. Music has also been improved and makes references to the main series titles. Cortex Strikes Back, Warped, and The Wrath of Cortex all receive little nods in the music composed for this title. Backgrounds and the sprite work continue to be top tier throughout the game, so honestly there's not really much left to say. N-Tranced seemed to give Vicarious Visions the freedom to spread their wings and experiment a little more with a handheld Crash title. Instead of being a shallow, dressed-down version of a main title, we get a proper full game that still captures the Crash aesthetic. If I had to give a recommendation, definitely go for N-Tranced. It's the better game.
This double dissection is complete. Conclusion? The Huge Adventure and N-Tranced both end up being accurate representations of the Naughty Dog Crash games, just in handheld form. Both games have their strengths and weaknesses, but N-Tranced ends up being the better of the two games. Fans and newcomers alike, pick these games up and see what a handheld Crash title was like before the Switch came along. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and comment about what game you'd like to see dissected next. Later. Bye. Arrivederci. Turn the video off.